What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the PG Pitt Show. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's also brought to you by you, the listeners. So make sure you're liking this video, subscribe to our channel, PG Pitt, on YouTube. We appreciate all of your support. We appreciate you joining us just ahead of Pitt's ACC opener against Louisville at Acrisure Stadium. Noon kickoff on ESPN2. Abby, the talk of the week, all anyone can seem to kind of have in their minds and be talking about is injuries. We've got a lot going on. We've got guys who may or may not be in the game, but also we've got our first week of mandatory injury reports from the ACC since this is a conference game. Louisville's got a couple guys who could be questionable, could play, could not. Just a lot going on this week, and a lot of questions about who's actually going to be on the field when we get there to Acrisure Stadium at noon on Saturday.
And then it doesn't help that, Syracuse gets fined for faking an injury. So everything is about injuries in the ACC. I'm very intrigued to see Pat Narduzzi's first injury report, just because we know how he is about injuries. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some big names on it, but definitely some big names going to be potentially out of the mix for Louisville. I mean, their star running back, Isaac Brown, is potentially not playing as well as Duke Watson. And then on the defensive side, Stanquan Clark, their star linebacker, is out until potentially the whole year, but definitely not playing this week. So, and then Pitt's banged up too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sticking with the Louisville side of things for 1 second, I mean, like Duke Watson and Isaac Brown, I mean, that's pretty much been their entire offense for most of this year. I think Miller Moss is a good player at quarterback for them, but they have not exactly, I would say, put a lot on him. He's been efficient. He's thrown for a bunch of yards, a couple touchdowns here or there, but he's mostly been kind of a point guard distributing and letting, Brown and Watson kind of do their thing, be really explosive out of the backfield. So that would be huge. I think to a certain extent, we'll get into that a little bit later. This game kind of plays into Pitt's hands if Louisville follows kind of a similar script and decides to run the ball a whole lot with or without Watson and Brown. But it really plays into their hands if you're kind of putting this game on Miller Moss and putting this game on those receivers and you don't really have a threat to run the ball. So Watson and Brown, I don't think you can really underestimate how valuable those two guys are to this Louisville team. And on the other side of things, you can say the same thing about Desmond Reid, who's been, the only name that we've been talking about as far as injuries go this week for Pitt, and for good reason. He's the most, he's the biggest name. He does a similar thing that Watson and Brown do for Pitt. I mean, he's a lot of their offense and a lot of what they want to do, but there's a couple other guys who did go down in that West Virginia game that I think it's worth keeping your eye on as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think about everyone who hit the ground in that West Virginia game. Yeah, they have had 2 weeks to get better, but some of them were pretty bad hits that took them out. I mean, we still haven't seen Rashad Battle or Tamon Lynham. Well, didn't have a game, but we didn't see them against West Virginia. So who knows their status, as well as, Zach Crothers took a lot of injuries. Cruz Brookins got banged up. There's just a lot of up in the air that will be, maybe a little bit cleared up when that injury report drops at 8 p.m. on Thursday night. But it makes it hard to almost plan for when so many when big pieces of both offenses are just out, or potentially out, because if Des Reed's out, that changes the landscape of Pitt's offense, and if Isaac Brown and Duke Watson are out, that changes the landscape of Louisville's offense. I would argue that Louisville has better replacements as of right now, just because we haven't seen a ton from Juelz, Goff, and Ja'Kerian Turner, really, at least explosively. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see these next couple days and who ends up playing on Saturday.
Jake Overbin is another name to throw out there. I know Pitt's been rotating their tight ends a ton, but, he's a guy who's been out those 2 games. And so Pitt will is hoping to have Jake Overbin back. But, yeah, there's not going to be a ton of clarity, I think, on that 8 p.m. Thursday injury report. Maybe there'll be a little bit more on Friday night and definitely something more final on Saturday morning about 10 a.m. I think is when that'll go live. That's when the final injury report will be released, or I guess they're called availability reports. Either way, yeah, I have a feeling that both coaches are going to play their cards pretty close to their vest. We talked to Pat Narduzzi at 1 today, and the first question was about his injury report, his first availability report that he has to do this year. And he said he already has it done, but no reason to submit it any earlier than he had to. So he's going to make us wait those 7 hours. But yeah, not going to be a lot of clarity, I would expect, over these next few hours, at least until Friday evening, if not Saturday morning. Before we start talking a little bit more about what Louisville does on the football field, not just who they're going to have, but what they're going to do when they face Pitt this afternoon, we have a word from our friends at ZipRecruiter. Are you having trouble finding the right people to hire? Tired of sorting through endless resumes? Well, the future of hiring looks much brighter because ZipRecruiter's latest tools and features help speed up finding the right people for your roles. So you save valuable time. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. With ZipRecruiter's new advances, you can easily find and connect with qualified candidates in minutes. See a candidate you're really interested in? You can unlock their contact info instantly. Use ZipRecruiter to save time on hiring. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you go to ZipRecruiter.com/audio right now, you can try it for free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Now, Abby, you have done a lot of work diving into Louisville, checking out what they do. So why don't you tell us a little bit of what you know about the Cardinals and what Pitt should be looking out for on Saturday?
I want to start by big asterisks because a lot of this that I'm going to say about the offense is fairly positive, but it is with the idea that Isaac Brown and Duke Watson are in. It doesn't totally take away from their offense without them, but this offense is very, very explosive when they are in, and they are starting to look like one of the more dangerous offensive teams, mostly because Isaac Brown and Duke Watson, but even, guys like Kewan Brown, who's been stepping in with Isaac Brown a little banged up, and then Colin Lacey also filling in some gaps. But this is a team that has shown that they're able to convert in the red zone. They're able to score both passing and rushing touchdowns. Definitely a more of a lean towards rushing, which bodes well for Pitt since the defensive line has been pretty solid. But this is going to be arguably their Pitt and Louisville's first big challenge, at least for Pitt defensively. But Louisville really hasn't played anyone of note. I think they're probably their best opponent so far was James Madison, but their other games were also against FCS or Group of 5 teams. And so we don't really know what this team looks like against a power conference opponent. And so while they appear to be explosive right now, who knows how that's going to shape up against a defense that is as good as Pitt's defense. You also can't you can't look away from Louisville's defense too. They're pretty solid at stopping the run, which if Des Reid's out, Pitt's probably not going to lean on the run too much anyway. But it's definitely interesting because, like we said, the injuries change things a bit. I still would anticipate this offense to be fairly consistent, maybe not as explosive, but some of those next man up have been able to produce, again, not to the star power of Isaac Brown and Duke Watson, but it's just, I think Louisville's offense has looked a lot cleaner against any of their opponents than Pitt has against even their easiest opponent. You're muted, Steven.
I was muted. Yeah, I think that's certainly fair to say. It's sort of the same thing that we were dealing with before the West Virginia game with Pitt. It's like, yeah, they've looked good, but things certainly change when you step onto the same field as a team that, has the same level of funding, has the same level of talent, is big and fast and strong. There's the gap really closes there, even if one team is better than the other. And we saw firsthand how that can kind of wake a team up a little bit and maybe surprise a team who had not really faced that level of competition before. I do think that this game maybe plays into Pitt's hands a little bit on the defensive side, just because even with Brown and Watson in there, Pitt's, I think, been really good against the run.
Mm-hmm.
So I would much rather, even though I think Pitt should have a ton of respect for, Colin Lacey, like you said, but Chris Bell is a really good receiver too, and Miller Moss has been there and done that at the power conference level. You would rather put this game in Moss's hands as opposed to, Isaac Brown or Duke Watson. So, I think Pitt, if Pitt is able to make them one-dimensional, whether because it's injuries, kind of giving them a boost against the run, or if they just plain, are selling out against the run and forcing Miller Moss to beat them. I kind of like this matchup for Pitt. Could be some famous last words, but I do think, at least on paper, this does play into their hands. And, I think offensively, Louisville's also I think really all in all, this game is going to come down to third downs. Who's able to, I don't think either of these teams are going to give up a ton of big plays, but whoever is going to win on early downs, keep themselves in manageable situations, I think that's going to be the key to overcoming some of these injuries, should they pop up. In the absence of some of your most explosive playmakers, you are going to have to be able to win down to down, right, and not put yourself in bad situations and everything like that. Pitt was really not able to do that last time out. Of course, obviously, we've talked about that a ton, but you hope maybe with the benefit of 2 weeks that they have been able to clean some stuff up.
I think there's also the benefit of Pitt is hungry for a win because they've had to sit for 2 weeks, not with that West Virginia loss. And that's a big motivator for teams. I mean, we saw it with West Virginia, obviously a rivalry game, but they were coming off a loss. It just adds some juice. And I feel like if Desmond Reid doesn't play, that almost adds juice to the backup running backs too, because you're playing for, the star, one of the stars of the team. So I agree. I think this matchup favors Pitt a little bit. I think it's going to be fairly close though, unless somehow one of these teams just completely runs away with it. But with as banged up as both of them are, I can't imagine that it will get to that point.
That's a lovely segue, Abby, because we are going to close this video out with some game picks. I think both of us were pretty wrong with our picks from the last game, the over hit, and Pitt did not win. So,
hey, I took the over, so I'm still 5 for 6.
There we go. So everyone listen to Abby, fade Steven. But Abby, we're going to let you go first then, since you've been the expert. Pitt underdogs, for 4.5-point dogs in this game. Where do you find yourself falling on that side of things? Do you think Pitt wins, or do they cover? How do you think this one goes?
I don't think Louisville's going to cover. I keep going back and forth about whether or not they're going to win. I definitely don't think they're going to cover though. So I should probably say, because I don't think that they're going to cover, that Pitt is going to win. But this is the one that I got wrong last 2 weeks ago as well. So yeah, I'm going to say Louisville doesn't win and they don't cover.
Okay. Pitt outright. I'm kind of in the same boat, honestly. I like the matchup for Pitt. I think Juelz Goff is going to give them enough in the running game to make things work, and Eli Holstein's going to clean up some of those misses that he had earlier in the year. If Pitt just doesn't commit 14 penalties again, I really like their chances, to be quite honest with you. So I'm riding with Pitt too outright. I like that 4.5. It's not it's a smaller number than honestly I would have thought, but I think the fact that Louisville hasn't played a Power 5 opponent yet, hasn't really proven it on that field in that sense, does change things. So Abby, last pick, over under 57.5. That's all these odds via our friends at FanDuel, sponsor of this show. They're bringing you that Pitt plus 4.5, and also the spread number, or the point total line at 57.5. So Abby, what do you think?
For the first time this season, I am taking the under. I go back to how banged up these teams are. And if Desmond Reid isn't playing, if Isaac Brown or Duke Watson or really both of them, I just can't see this being super high scoring. I mean, it took to overtime for Pitt to hit the over against for Pitt and West Virginia to hit the over. And that was fairly, low scoring in the grand scheme of things. So I'm going with the under just because I don't think either of these offenses are at full strength right now.
My pick, I'm with you, but my pick is more related to the fact that I think that Pitt is going to win. I think offense is going to be hard to come by in this game. So I think Pitt, that plays to their advantage. I think if this is a shootout, that's more to Louisville's advantage just because they got some experience and maybe some some more depth of explosive playmakers. So I am taking the under as well. I think it's going to be pretty, clear of that 57.5 points. So I'm going with the under 2, but a Pitt win. We'll see how it all plays out on Saturday afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for another edition of the PG Pitt Show. Stay tuned to this channel, PG Pitt on YouTube. Like the video, subscribe, stay tuned for more coverage of Pitt and Louisville coming up later this weekend. And as always, follow our written coverage, at post-gazette.com. Appreciate you all joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.